Welcome back to the Live Worthy podcast. We're inviting women to cross the threshold of faith, becoming who God has already said you are. I'm your host, Erin. I'm so excited to be with you today. And I'm joined by my very dear friend who we've known each other and we've gotten so close that I actually already thought you were on this podcast. Like, no, you've been on. I can't believe I've done anything without you so far.
Well, You've done a great job so far. I love listening to this podcast. I love it. You do a great job. And I'm just blessed and privileged to be here today.
Welcome.
Yeah,
we're going to get into it today.
Yeah.
Into some real conversation. But first, we want to find out about you. So this is Victoria Piccirilli. We're so excited to have you. You are a podcaster as well. Mm-hmm. So we're going to connect in the show notes your podcast, which is, I love it. I love it. It's so good. And your voice is so beautiful. Anyway, you have to check it out. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what your, I don't want to say claim to fame, but I know I'll share it. I got to know you because we were in a ministry group together, ministry leadership group together, and we connected and had very similar stories and aligning things in our lives. And then we connected and you told me about what you do, which is primarily silent retreats, inviting people into experience silence with the Lord. So would you just I gave like a brief overview, but you tell us more about who you are and how you got into that.
Yeah. Wow. So I remember actually the first time I met you, the first time I laid eyes on Erin.
Oh gosh.
Well, the reason I remember it is because immediately the Holy Spirit drew me to you. And I felt a connection, and I felt safe, and I felt like I needed you in my life right away. And it was such a strange feeling because it was immediate. Like I did not really know you. It was really just your mannerism, the way that your voice carries authentic kindness and gentleness and humility, and yet an amazing amount of authority. And I could tell that just from you speaking, like just from you saying hello, just from like seeing you in the room. And immediately the Lord said to me, you need to ask her to mentor you. And I held back from saying anything to you because it was weird because I barely knew you.
Well, it was also weird because when we met, I was like, wow, I just really love her. And it's rare to meet somebody who is that passionate about Jesus. Like, and we could have sat there for hours and hours, talked about him. And I remember when you called me and I was just like, well, gosh, this could have gone either way. I could have asked you to mentor me.
I remember you said that.
It's like, I got to pray about this. I don't know if I'm ready for the likes of you to mentor somebody of your caliber. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, the reason I bring that up is because it links to the ministry that I run that hosts silent retreats. It's called Kallah, Kallah. It's an Aramaic and Hebrew word. It can be spelled with one or two L's. They're both appropriate. But it's actually the last word that Jesus spoke on the cross. And that word Kallah carries a lot of weight. It was translated into teledestai, which is the Greek word that is translated into the English word finished. However, it means more than that.
Yeah.
And so it has four meanings. That Aramaic word kallah means finished, but it also means complete. It also means consummated. It is the same word that is used to describe what happens between a man and a woman after they get married. And it also means bride. So when Jesus spoke that word on the cross, he said, "It is finished. Everything is made complete in me. I have consummated my relationship with you, my bride." That's what he said when he spoke his last word. So the word finished really doesn't capture really doesn't capture it. So anyway, that is the name of the ministry, Kallah, that hosts silent retreats. And the reason I am linking the two, the memory of meeting you and asking you to mentor me, and the fact that that I have this ministry, Kallah, that I co-labor with the Lord in, is because I am really, my experience has nothing to do with ministry. My experience is in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so when the Lord called me to start Kallah back in 2020, I did it completely on faith and obedience with passion. And I think when the Lord brought you into my life, it was because he knew that my obedience and my passion had taken me as far as it could take me. I needed to learn from somebody how to run a ministry, and I'm still learning from you by watching you run Worthy, which you started after I started Kallah, but watching how you do it and how you lead this ministry as the founder and the executive director, and also how it's so quickly become so successful. Of course, with the Lord's hand on it, but I know the Lord's hand is also on Kallah. And so learning the practical ways of how to behave in ministry, frankly.
Yeah.
I get to watch you and learn from you and ask you questions. And that's exactly, the Lord told me I needed to ask you to mentor me. And he said, I need you to be a student. And then I don't know if you remember, but the phone conversation that I had with you when I asked you to mentor me, you said it could go both ways. You did say that. And then you said, I really need to pray about this. And so, and I said, absolutely. And then the conversation came to a close and you said, can I pray over you? And I said, yes. And so you prayed over me. And in the prayer, you saw a vision. And the vision was of a minivan. I think it was of your minivan or a minivan. And it was on the bumper of the minivan. You saw a bumper sticker that said student driver. Right? Remember that?
Yes.
And you told me, I don't know if this means anything.
Yeah.
But I saw a minivan with the bumper sticker on it that said, be patient or whatever, student driver. And I just started crying and laughing all at the same time. And I told you what the Lord had told me. He told me that I was supposed to be a student to you. And you were like, well, I don't need to pray about it anymore.
Yes, that was it. That was the prayer.
That was it. That was the Lord's answer. And so yes, our ministry is a ministry that makes space for God. So basically the idea is to get people away from their normal everyday life, their normal everyday busyness, their normal everyday roles that they wear, all the hats that we wear, men and women. We're all somebody in a home. We are somebody in a workspace. We are somebody to family members that don't even live in our home. We are somebody to friends, other places. We wear a lot of hats. We have a lot of titles in our life. And so Kallah really exists to make space for people to come and experience the purity of who they are in the space of God, in the presence of God, without those titles.
Yeah.
And in that space, God can really minister to us and press the reset button, remind us of why we're here, who we are to him, and maybe give us fresh or renewed vision for what our next assignment is or what our next season looks like, or just to affirm us in the season that we're in a way that only God can,
Yeah. And you've said, so I think people react when you talk about silent retreats, like no distractions, like you're turning in your phone and no electronics, like you've got a kind of an analog watch. You're not, it really is like
disconnect.
It's a disconnect. It's silence in every way, for, 48 or 72 hours. And so you say, or the Lord shared with you that this was the answer to what? Could you share that with us?
Yeah. He told me after my first silent retreat that I went as a guest to, he said to me, this is my answer to your world. And it was this understanding. You know how God can say a simple sentence like that, and there's all of this information that comes with it.
Like
right?
Kallah.
Yes, like Kallah, right?
Yeah.
And it was all of this information. And it was like this, I felt the Lord's, in that statement, I felt his compassion, his love for our world and the people in it, but also his compassion for how technology driven and busy and disconnected disconnected from all the right things and connected to all the wrong things that our world is. I felt his compassion in that. Like, how could I expect you to see me so clearly when you have all of this noise going on around you? Like, I understand.
Yeah. And what a compassionate response that he's not like, how dare you have all these distractions and you don't even deserve to be with me. He's like, I have an answer. I have an answer to that if you want to step in.
Yeah. It was an invitation for sure. It was like, this is my answer to your world. And it was that understanding of how busy and noisy our world is and the compassion that he has. And there was no blame. There was no shame. There was no, if you all hadn't done this, it was just like this, none of this is a surprise to him.
Yeah.
And part of it is he's amazed at what his creation has done. But it is so easy to become isolated and disconnected and from him. And that makes his heart so compassionate towards us, because he knows he's our lifeline. He's our life. And so he's our very breath. And so how can we cope with all of those things if we're not connected to the source of our life? And so he gets it. And so, yes, it's that. And I have a solution to this for those people who will accept it. For those people who will say yes to the invitation, I have a solution. And it was, I also say this, I'm like, it was like the Lord said, I'm not going to step out of heaven and start removing cell phones out of everybody's hands, but I am going to invite you to put them away and be with me. Like,
come on.
He would never overstep our will.
Yeah.
But he's inviting us to surrender our will to him.
And what a beautiful thing to do. You started this process. You mentioned it a little bit, like your first one you're invited to as a guest, and then it rolled into now, how many have you done? Yeah,
I'm just about to go on my 75th or 76th, something like that.
Which is just insane in the span of time. But what I have found to be true of you, Victoria, which is rare for people, you walk with such an incredible amount of love and compassion and authority, but you have a fear of the Lord. Like, you just are like, I am only going to do what he says. I will do it quickly. I will be obedient. I don't care what it costs me or what it means or what it does not matter. I fear the Lord. And I feel like that is a product of you stepping into this assignment of saying yes to him in this way. And it shows in your life. 74, it's not days. It's like a lot of days, but 74 times invitations that you've accepted to be with him. It shows up in your life in a myriad of ways. But I would love for you to talk about, because we're talking about what it means to really be in the marketplace as a minister of the gospel, as a minister of reconciliation, with that assignment, walking in the fear of the Lord and all those things. Could you talk about what that first invitation in the midst of your marketplace ministry invited you into?
Yeah.
The Worthy Encounter is July 17th and 18th, and it's for women who are ready for more. It's time to announce to the daughters of God that they are worthy of their calling, worthy to come boldly, worthy to hear God's voice, to steward your authority, and to labor in the harvest. Women who long to see a generation of women who are awake, prepared and unashamed, who carry the oil of the Spirit and carry the authority of the King, who labor with freedom in the harvest and recognize their strength in advancing the kingdom of God for such a time as this. We are preparing this place for you July 17th and 18th. It's the Worthy Encounter, your invitation to cross the threshold into more of the Lord. Join us when you're ready for more.
Yeah, so at that time, I had been building a business it had been 10 years at that time. It was in the marketplace, obviously. It was in the direct sales industry, and I had built it to a very successful point. It was a 6-figure income for me at that point. It was very busy. It was very demanding, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. It was another child for me. It was like a third child for me, partially because I loved it, but partially because it demanded a lot of time and attention and nurturing and care. And it blessed our home in great ways, with the person that I became through running the business and through the leadership skills and just the way I had to develop as a leader and as a woman, as a person. It blessed us greatly, but obviously also financially. It greatly blessed us, and it gave me flexibility because it wasn't. It was not a regular 9-to-5 job, although I worked way more than 40 hours a week on it. But it gave me the freedom and flexibility to work when I wanted to and when it could work around my family. And so at this point in 2014, I was invited to go to a silent retreat. I have a really good friend who works in ministry as well. She's a director for a ministry called Young Life, which I know is a well-known ministry. Yeah. And she and I are dear friends. And her regional director, it's not even a Young Life thing, I don't think. It was her regional director. It was part of his culture. He made it mandatory for every single person who was on staff under his leadership to go on a silent retreat every year. And he created the environment. Young Life they have camps for kids. So it was easy for him to use one of their camps. And he made it mandatory for all of them to go on this silent retreat for 48 hours. And they could invite guests. So my friend invited me to go. And it's so funny because as soon as she invited me, I responded the same way everybody responds to me, which is so funny. I was like, a silent retreat? What does that mean? You can't talk? Everybody says that.
Why would I do that?
Yeah. That sounds weird. I don't think I could do that. Like that's like, and we worked out together 3 mornings a week. Her and her husband, me and my husband, and then our pastor from our church, who we both went to the same church. We all went to the same gym every morning. And I remember he was overhearing her asking me, and I was like, what does that mean? You can't talk? And she was like, yes. She was laughing and she was like, yes. And he looked at me and he goes, oh, that's going to be hard for you. And I'm like, thanks for the encouragement, Pastor James, great. But I almost took that as a challenge. Like, oh yeah, I'll show you,
I can be quiet with the best of them.
I can do anything I set my mind to.
You're still proving him wrong. Yes, 74 later.
Exactly. So, so I said yes, and I always say that the answer leapt out of my mouth without me giving it permission.
Wow.
And it's almost like my soul knew how much I needed it. And so I just said yes, and then I was committed. And especially after he said, that's going to be hard for you. I was like, I'm going to be the best silent retreater ever, which is so funny. That's one of the things that the Lord burns off of you when you're at a silent retreat is your need to perform and be good at something.
I am not good at this.
I'm not good at this. Silence. So anyway, it was in December, which has got to be one of the most difficult months for a busy person / woman to get away. And I think that was by design. And so it was in December. It was like the middle of December too. It was probably 10 days before Christmas, So which is so funny to me that I'm like, it's so hard for people to get away to celebrate what?
Yeah.
Because we're so busy
We're so
doing
busy.
what?
I know.
Getting ready to celebrate. Right. But it's so hard to get away with him.
Yeah.
Because we're doing things for him.
Girl. Yes.
So actually December is one of our most well-attended silent retreats now. Because I think the people who say yes to that get it. You know, they get what we're celebrating that time of year. And so anyway, I went away for 48 hours and it was life-changing is an understatement. It shifted everything for me. It was a line in the sand. It forever was this before and after. Kind of like my salvation moment, you know, those moments, you know, kind of like when you have your first child or when you get married, there's these moments of life before and life after. And this was a before and after. I was scared. I was petrified going into it. I was very nervous. And I think everybody who goes the first time, it has a little bit of that. Like, I don't know what this is going to be like. I don't know what to expect. I'm sure it will be wonderful, but I don't know how it will be for me. And the Lord uses that. I think the more nervous and anxious you are, the more you sense his showing up and his peace and his invitation. It's like a warm blanket that wraps around you when you step into silence. It's like this warm, comforting blanket that just wraps around you. Like the Passion Translation talks a lot about his wraparound presence.
Yes.
You feel that wrap around presence in silence. And I felt that immediately. And there was a devotion. So at the beginning of a silent retreat, there's worship and there's a devotion, and then you're prayed into silence. So at this first one, there was a devotion that this regional director gave, and it spoke directly to me. It was very personal. The name of my culture in my business was the more than enough area. The God is more than enough. And it was the more than enough area. And his whole message was about God being a God of more than enough.
Oh my
and
gosh.
So that was not random.
Yeah, no.
That was totally for me. And then there was a scripture in Mark right before Jesus fed the 4,000. Jesus looks at the people and he says to his disciples, we must feed them, for I don't want to send them away hungry, for they will faint. And so he was using that scripture. He was really using it to say, just give him your bread and your fish, and he's the God of more than enough. But I was so arrested by Jesus's recognition, his compassion for the people. And it was like Jesus at that moment said to me, I will not send you home hungry. Trust me to feed you while you're here. Because I think one of the biggest concerns that I had, one of the biggest fears I had, was that God would show up for everybody else, but he would not show up for me. I was afraid I would go there and I would be bored, that he wouldn't talk to me, that I might get some rest, I might get some good sleep, I might get to take some walks in nature, but I wouldn't hear him.
Yeah.
You know, I was so afraid that I wasn't good enough for him to show up for, you know, that he didn't love me enough to show up for me, which sounds ridiculous when you hear somebody else say it. But I think we all struggle with that insecurity at some point along the way. And especially when we walk into new situations, right? And so that's why I say the more nervous and anxious sometimes you are, the more he shows up, because it's like that contrast, and he knows you need it so much more. And so he really showed up for me. And at the end of the silent retreat, I wept the whole final morning because I felt like I had stepped into Eden. I had stepped into heaven. Like, I call it like my Narnia experience. I felt like I had walked through a wardrobe into another land and another experience. And I did not want to go back. I didn't want to go back. And all I could think about was the phone that was in my glove compartment of my car and all the responsibilities that were waiting for me, even the ones I love.
Yeah.
Even the ones I love. It was still felt so heavy that morning because I didn't want any of it. I just wanted to continue being with in the purity of his presence with nothing else pulling on me. And so I was very distraught, and he knew I was. And so he met me in the way that morning. He had met me the whole time, but that morning he met me in the way that he knew would calm my fears. And he met me in like these are your next steps. This is like your to-do list. This is how you're going to get through it. Which was so comforting to me because that's my personality. I'm kind of a checklist person. And so he met me with the security of, I have a plan, and this is the plan. And basically there were 3 things on that checklist, very simple. Number 1 was, I want you to get away with me like this every quarter. Well, just that. Like just the Lord of the universe saying, I want you all to myself every 3 months for 48 hours. Like, how romanced do you feel, right? And loved that the lover of your soul says, I want you all to myself. You're going to come. And this is a command. You know, that you're going to obey. Like, you're going to get away with me every quarter. And so as soon as he said that, I was like, yes. Like, it was like water for this thirsty soul, you know? And the second thing that he said to me was, I want you to invite mentorship into your life that will hold you accountable to that. Because he knows how easy it is for 3 months to go by in the busiest of our I mean, look, we're already 3 months into 2026. Like, how did that happen? Right? I mean, I'm still writing 2025 on stuff. And here we are. So 3 months goes by fast. So he knew how easy it would be if I didn't have some accountability. And so I knew exactly who I was supposed to invite at that time. It was my pastor, Pastor James, the one who had laughed at me. So, and then the third thing that the Lord said to me was, one day you're going to host these for the world, because this is my answer to your world. This is my answer. So that was the third thing he said. One day you're going to host these because this is my answer to your world.
I think it's such a beautiful thing too, when you think about the 3 things he told you. One point I just want to make here is that if it's a true word from the Lord, it stands the test of time. So we're talking about this 12 years later because these 3 things were truly from the Lord. It wasn't just Victoria
made them up,
needed
them, or whatever.
And it serves you, serves you in a way that is self-ambitious or whatever. This was the Lord saying, this is my priority for your life. And that is a whole different thing, because everything shifted when you said yes to those 3 things. Particularly, talk to us about how this started to infiltrate your business.
And I didn't even expect that. Like, I really didn't. But it did infiltrate my business, because what happened is first of all, when he said, I'm going to have you host these, I knew that the first place I would host them was in the community in my business. It was going to be for the leaders within my business community, within my marketplace community. But I went home and I felt so clear and simple. Like, everything was so clear and so simple. I was so aware and responsive to his voice after that time, because I was able to, even in the noise, I was able to cut away the noise and hear his voice so clearly through the noise, because I had heard it without noise for 48 hours straight. So I became so sensitive to his voice and his direction that even with the noise and the busyness of life, I was able to cut through that and just clearly hear him. And it made everything so simple. Just like those 3 things were so simple that he told me, my every day became like that. Every day became like, this is what he wants me to do today. This is who he wants me to meet with. This is what he wants me to say. This is who he wants me to mentor next. This is this is the business strategy that he wants me to have for this quarter. So I started getting away with him every quarter, and I would just offer everything up to him. There's a Psalm 5:3, I think, that verse David talks about laying his life out upon the altar. He says at each and every sunrise, I will lay my life upon the altar and I will wait for your fire to fall. So it was just that picture of every quarter, I would lay out the pieces of my life, right? Like my marriage, my being a mom to my 2 boys, my time with him, my commitment at church, and my business, my friendships. Like I would lay all of the pieces of my life out on the altar. And in those 48 hours, I waited for his fire to fall, right? So he would highlight things that I needed to focus on. He would highlight things that I needed to let go of. He would highlight things that I needed to do differently, prioritize differently, because he knew what was coming that quarter, right? I remember so many times he would say, I need you to focus a little more on your oldest son, Charlie. And I would say, okay. And then 6 weeks into that quarter, Charlie would have a really difficult time at school or with friends or something. And because of the extra that I had poured into him, he would come to me with it and we would walk through it in a different way. Because I had been focused on him because the Lord had told me to. He knew it was coming. There were times where he would tell me to focus on a specific leader in my marketplace ministry, position. And it was because they were about to go through a bad time in their marriage, or they were about to have a very sick child, or they were about to make leaps and bounds in their business and do amazing things. Like he would tell me to go and work with this person in Kansas City, and I went there and worked with her. I went there and started working with her, and before you know it, a huge part of my organization started to bloom and blossom there in Kansas City because I had listened to the Lord. And I know we can do that every day, but when you set aside that time regularly, and he gives you strategy, it's amazing. So it was almost like the difference in my business before, and I was already successful in my business. I was probably in the top 3% of the company, and so and then after I became the top 3 in my company, and so it was like before the silent retreats, it was like I would throw mud against the wall strategically, but I would still throw it against the wall to see what was sticking and then go with that. After I started going to silent retreats with him, I knew exactly what mud to make, how to make it, with what materials, when to throw it against the wall, and what area of the wall to throw it against, and it would stick every time.
And that's the strategy of heaven. So oftentimes, we've talked about this, you have been taken into these places, like with the Lord, into like a strategy room where he's got blueprints and he's got schematics for you for the future, but for right now. And that's what you're saying when you're saying, I knew what kind of mud to make. And here's the thing. I think when we're just throwing mud at the wall in our marriage or our motherhood or the marketplace or our ministry, we're just like, I think this will work. And we're throwing it at the wall. It is a waste of energy sometimes because you've done it. You've put all this effort and energy, and then you're mad that it doesn't work or it doesn't produce the results that you thought. Or it was the wrong time.
It was just the wrong timing or the wrong way or the wrong whatever, and it's not producing.
Yeah, and this thing that you have done with the Lord, you've established this time with him where he's like, okay, I want you to aim here. And that is really that word about missing the mark. That armatia kind of sin, the miss the mark. You didn't do anything wrong, evil, malicious, or intent. It was like you were aiming and you missed the mark. I feel like this Kallah, because I've experienced, in strategic ways, and the Lord talking to me about things that I was like, I wanted to talk about this, and he was like, yeah, we're going to talk about this, and it has proven to be life-changing. I mean, truly. The experience with him alone would be enough, but the fact that he would just share more about, what he has in destiny and design and purpose for my life is like, it's amazing.